Howdy folks, this just in. This is a 2024 Mazda CX-5. This is the turbo signature version of this in rhodium white metallic, or as I like to call it, pearl. It really does look like pearl. So why is this vehicle here? I mean, we've done so many of these. Well, a couple things have happened recently. This has a brother, and that brother is the CX-50, which we love. It is a really good crossover. However, so is this. So in this video, we're gonna do a quick little walk around and show you why this is still a great bargain, a great crossover, a great performer, and worthy of your consideration. Given that this is the turbocharged version of this 2.5 liter Skyactiv engine, puts out 227 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Now, that may seem like a lot, and it is, because if you compare this to many of the vehicles it competes against, this is still pretty much a powerhouse. Now, it does get 24 mpg combined, which is on the lower side, but remember, you are talking about a vehicle that has really beefy power. 310 pound-feet of torque, yes, thank you very much. It also has a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, I know a lot of you are like, well, wait a minute. There's guys out there who are doing 8-speed and 10-speed transmissions, or CVTs, continuously variable transmissions. Why is Mazda sticking with the 6-speed? And there's a very simple reason. It works. They tend to be strong, robust. These are known to be pretty high quality vehicles in terms of not breaking down all the time. Their transmissions are well known at being fairly strong. And bottom line, it works with this setup. They use the same type of setup on many of their other vehicles as well. However, as you may have heard, on certain Mazdas, they've changed and gone to other transmissions. But that's not part of this video. Doth your eyes deceive you, or is there mud everywhere? Yes. If you were to look around, you would see that this is a beautiful Colorado winter day, one that has tons of snow everywhere, but the snow eventually turns into this stuff called water, and water eventually combines with the mud. Now, I know that this is not exactly ideal for an all-white vehicle that is pearl, no matter what they say. But here's the deal. It has a really good all-wheel drive system. Predictive all-wheel drive in this is still one of the best systems out there. But you know what else I think is one of the best things out there? It's looks. I do think that Mazda's signature look is fantastic. I know it's subjective, but look at the way they do the chrome here. I'm not a chrome fan, but I love that. Headlight design, I think, is absolutely spot on, especially with these DRLs lighting up here on the side with the LEDs. They managed to minimize something and keep it handsome. The CX-5 has always been a very handsome crossover. Is the CX-50, its brother, more attractive? I think it's a little bit more burly. This is smoother. Okay, let's have a look at the side. Now, a couple things that you guys may notice. Very smooth. They took a design that they could have gone crazy with and put blistering fenders on, which is exactly what they did with the CX-50, but in this case, they decided to stay away from that, and I do admire that. A couple other things just to quickly note. This little section here, I do like it, but I think that this is strange, the way they have this rubber coming down and then going to the chrome. I'm just kind of curious to why they didn't go all chrome here. The rear, I think, looks fabulous. And one thing to point out down here, you have actual dual exhaust, and unlike certain German automakers, Volkswagen, you have functional, real exhaust back there. These are 19-inch wheels, and they are beautiful. They are part of this package. Now, bear in mind that you can get a Mazda CX-5, very similar to this one, but without the turbocharged engine, and it still has a 2.5 liter setup. You can still get a pretty nice interior. But this is really where it's at. This is the absolute top of the line, the signature. All right, I'm gonna try to kick a little bit of the mud off my shoes. By the way, quick tip, for those of you who have to go into deep mud like this or gooey mud, flip over your mat so that way you can easily clean off that part and not destroy the mat on the inside. Okay, here we go. What a nice place to sit. I know it doesn't quite come through on video, but the surfaces everywhere you touch feels premium. These seats are fantastic, and they have this raised stitching. It's very nice. Feels nice on the bum. This area here, once again, leather, soft touch materials even here. And then leading up here, this is hard plastic, but it's not too bad. And then it leads to this rubber. So that's interesting. Oh, okay, here's the separation. Very, very little plastic. A lot of good stuff here. Different things that you're touching feel very good. So I wanted to point that out first. This is a 10.25 inch screen. And this is, I think, a huge area of contention for many people out there, which would possibly include a guy like me. Sorry about the beeping. Okay. Now, this screen I think is very clear. You use this to make things move around there. Now, many would argue that this is a great system because it keeps your eyes on the road while you move this around in order to make things happen here, okay? Going to another screen, moving this around once again, you go to another screen, you move things around. It seems like it's pretty intuitive, but there are a couple of issues. One is you're still looking at the screen in order for things to happen while they're happening. So what they initially were saying, they being the experts, is that when you touch a screen, you're looking at where your finger's going and you're taking your eyes off the road to touch that screen and make things happen. Well, once again, I'm looking at the screen in order to do things as well. So I don't really see that as being a major point. Secondly, this is not a touch screen, as you can see. So if you're in Apple CarPlay, which this does allow, as long as you're hooked up, then it can be a touch screen. But as you can see, without Apple CarPlay, and I'm pretty sure I'd probably do the same thing in Android Auto, is probably touch friendly. But yeah, without those, doesn't do it. Let me go over to the map. Once again, not letting me go into the menu or anything else. It's all here. Okay. With that being said, the rest of the controls are fabulous. The way they set up these controls, event controls, there's a nice click. Feels like it's a premium component. When you're actually hitting the buttons, you're feeling real buttons. It's not some screen where you're just hitting the screen. Something as simple as a heated steering wheel. It's a nice return on that. The quality of the controls in this vehicle are absolutely on another level. If you go into a RAV4 or into a Honda or any of the Hyundai products, they're decent. They're decent, but they're not to this level. Mazda has gone up another level in terms of their interior comfort. One final thing that a lot of you might have an issue with is the sunroof. It's tiny. Many vehicles in this class have a panoramic sunroof. This does not have one, which I think is a bit of a miss, but then again, this is an older vehicle. So before we get going, I wanted to show you something interesting. This is our sticker, and if you look, you have iActive all-wheel drive, front and rear stabilizer bars, hill launch assist, but then this is where it gets interesting. MI drive, sport off-road mode, G-vectoring, control plus. So if you trigger this switch here, which has MI drive or my drive, you can choose from sport. Now that really changes things, by the way, and yes, it turns red. That'll hold your gears a lot longer. That definitely makes this thing feel like it's wanting to go through corners faster because you can stay at higher RPMs. Normal, well, big surprise there. And then off-road. Now the off-road mode changes a few things around with the algorithm of the system, how much it's actually sending power back to the rear wheels, which is doing it immediately, basically. So that way you're not having to go through a lot of slippage in the front before it throws power to the back, which is how most all-wheel drive systems work with a front-wheel drive bias vehicle. In addition to that, the predictive all-wheel drive system that this has also takes into account everything from the temperature outside, whether or not your windshield wipers are on. Obviously, it's measuring wheel spin, breakage, all these other things that are going on to say, okay, I know that I need to have maximum all-wheel drive, minimum all-wheel drive, no all-wheel drive on at these times. In addition to the fact that we're in a swampy area here, which I am about to get this nice white paint job a little bit dirty, I can tell you a couple things. Now, first of all, thank you so much, Mazda, for having a proper gear lever. Is this so hard, Acura? Gosh. I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of buttons, and I'm definitely not a fan of dials like having a lever. Okay, now the all-wheel drive system in this will send power to the back as needed, and then it'll send that power side by side. So, or side to side, side by side, side to side. Ah, you can hear a little bit of dirt kicking up. By the way, this is a relatively quiet car, but perhaps one of the things that Mazda has always needed to work on, in my mind, is their tuning for quiet. It's improved. Now, this car's been around for a while, and it's actually gotten quieter over time because they've been working on that. So why would you want a vehicle like this over, say, the CX-50? Well, aside from price, you sit a little bit differently in this vehicle. It's a little bit more narrow, and it definitely feels like you're sitting a little higher. I don't really think you're sitting that much higher, but maybe just a hair. So some people like a little bit more of a commanding point of view on the road. I think that works quite well. Another thing is that this is a little bit more compact feeling in terms of parking, the way the glass is set up, the way the mirrors are set up, outward vision in the rear even. All of those are quite good, and I think that actually helps make this a little bit easier to drive perhaps. And I'm just barely, right, by a hair. But here's the best part. This, at least, has wonderfully weighted steering. Not all vehicles in this class have steering that has a little bit of heft to it. This does, and it is excellent. Probably best in class. In fact, not even probably. I'd say it's just pretty much there. It's best in class. Acceleration, well, I'll show you some acceleration when we get down here. Braking is excellent. Cornering, with all of the systems working, it is remarkable how something this tall can hustle around a corner. It's basically a tall sport wagon. That's basically what this thing is. Can you tell I like these things? Pretty much everything Mazda builds right now is centered around the driver and allows you as the driver to have a really good time. Okay, let's just pull out here. I'm not going to do anything special except for I'm going to go into sport mode. Okay, I'm in sport mode. Okay, ready? Here we go, acceleration. Gotta wait for the turbo, there it goes. Not much of a delay. And man, does this thing thunder. Oh yeah. It's got a nice snarl to it, and it just picks up and goes, which is fabulous. In addition, the cameraman's gonna hold on kind of tight because we're gonna go through a corner. Now, I've been cornering these things for years. And what's really cool about them is that it transfers good weight to the rear, so you're not hunkering down too much with the front end and dipping. So this road right here, I just take it at a hard corner. It just goes and grips. Acres of grip. Off-road, even though the all-wheel drive system is excellent, I wouldn't recommend this as an off-roader. And we've taken these things off-road before. They work well, but your ground clearance, your approach angle, definitely not set up for any even remotely serious off-roading. Really, dirt roads are as far as I would go with something like this. Bottom line, though, as a daily driver and as something that can actually be rewarding, going on a twisty highway or a canyon, this outshines everything. I'll let you in on a secret. I've owned, technically speaking, 4 Mazdas. The producer for TFL, Zach, he's had 3. Combined, everybody at TFL's probably close to a half dozen to 10 Mazda products over the years. Why? Well, look, they drive great. They always have. They've given you high quality little cars, or in this case, pretty decent sized, mid-sized crossover that drive better than most of the competition. That includes this one. I challenge you to find a RAV4 or a CR-V that drives better on the street, or that has a more advanced all-wheel drive system. It's right up there with Subaru. And I truly believe it's right up there with one of my favorites, the Acura RDX A-Spec. Absolutely one of my favorite vehicles out there. This thing can go toe-to-toe with it, with only a couple of exceptions, and one of which has to do with the fact that this is still a relatively small vehicle in its class. There are other vehicles out there, including its brethren, that have more space. Now, before I tell you the price on this, keep in mind that this is being built at the same time as the Mazda CX-50. And if Mazda follows the same pattern that they've been displaying for the past few years, For instance, with the Mazda 3 or CX-3 I should say, turning that into the Mazda CX-30, and of course the CX-9, that went away because of the CX-90. So I firmly believe that this vehicle is on borrowed time, which means that most likely you'll be able to wheel and deal, because a lot of dealerships are going to read the tea leaves and they're going to say, the CX-50 is going to be replacing this sooner rather than later. As such, this vehicle starts at, in this trim, $40,000 exactly. This one comes out to $42,705. That is a lot of money for a vehicle in this class. However, keep in mind that I truly believe that it does compete with the higher end vehicles like the Acura or like Infiniti. So if you look at those prices, those things are more expensive, and this gives you an interior that is absolutely premium and some of the best performance out there. All right, so should you get it? 42,000 bucks and change, a lot of change. Yeah, absolutely. Provided you don't need a lot of cargo space, and provided that you don't mind having a vehicle that is a little bit on the dated side. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.